Shanti, how are you? Recently, a documentary by BBC on our Prime Minister Narendra Modi was banned. Despite the ban, so the left party protest, and they even succeeded in screening the documentary in several universities and public places. Of course, it is done to gain political mileage, and also it results in clashes between two parties. Actually, this is the scenario of the whole world. Go to any country, you will find ruling party and the opposition party accusing each other for various reasons. Do you know who really succeeds due to these clashes? Yes, the ruler of the world, Satan. Several years ago, in Afghanistan, Taliban demolished Buddha statues. It might be a shock for the outsiders, but for Buddhists living in Afghanistan, it won't be a shock because they will obviously expect that kind of behavior from them. The world is being ruled by Satan for the past 2500 years, which is why there have been conflicts no matter what system emerges. So previously it was kingdom and now it is democracy, but still the problem increases day by day. So the real question to ask is, how do you feel on listening about this ban and the ongoing conflicts revolving the ban? Do you feel happy to see the documentary against our PM Modi, or do you feel angry that it gets banned, or do you get angry that some are able to screen that video despite the ban? Either way, you are the loser and Satan is the winner, because that's his sole purpose of creating these kinds of conflicts, to make you peaceless and to keep you peaceless like forever for various reasons. He will put more and more reasons for you to feel unhappy. If you feel happy that this documentary gets banned, you will eventually be confronting some kind of situation that's going to make you unhappy. And if you feel happy that it has been screened, eventually you will be confronting some other situation that's going to make you feel so bad. So to remain happy no matter what happens around you, the first thing you need to do is to detach yourself from all sorts of identities, whether identifying yourself to be a Hindu or Christian or Muslim or atheist, or belonging to left or right, or even if you consider yourself to be a man or woman, even that will create some kind of conflicting opinions. Men get angry on listening to feminist views, and women get angry on male chauvinistic behavior. So all these things make you unhappy, mainly because you identify yourself to something that's short-lived, because even this body is not going to last long. It's temporary, it's perishable, and God asks you to come out of all limited boundaries, because you are imperishable soul, eternal soul. So in the recent Bharat Jodo Yatra by Rahul Gandhi, he was answering some reporters that he said he actually killed Rahul Gandhi long back. And if you didn't know what I was saying, go and listen to Shivji's teachings in the world religious scriptures. That's what he said. But I don't know whether he knows the actual meaning of it. The actual meaning of it is to consider yourself to be the soul, the eternal soul, because the body is perishable. It has a time limit for that. If you get attached to your body, then you will consider yourself to be a male or female. You will consider to be a Hindu or Muslim or Christian. You will consider yourself to be a rich or poor, good looking, bad looking, white, black. So you will come with so much identities. So if something happens to your identity then you allow those external things to affect you emotionally. Of course, the goal of this documentary on our Prime Minister is to trigger Muslims against Narendra Modi, not only Indian Muslims but also the British Muslims, because they have their own political mileage by screening this documentary, because majority of Muslims living in Britain, so they want to gain confidence from British Muslims so that they can vote for them. So these Hindu-Muslim communal riots happen in places where people are so sensitive and so attached to their religions. If they are able to detach themselves from religious identities, then no matter what happens around them, it is not going to affect them. So they are not going to become peaceless and act on it and cause such damage, including murders. After all, it is the world of Satan. So obviously it will try its best to make you peaceless. The only way for you to be peaceful all the time is to hold on to God, who is just one, and He is God for all humans, no matter what religion they belong to. And He is called God Shiva by Hindus, Allah by Muslims, and Heavenly Godfather by Christians. And He resides in this golden red colored light world called Supreme Abode. Not only God, but also we souls, before entering this body in the earth, we resided along with God in this supreme world, which is also called Parandam or Parlok. The only difference between we souls and the Supreme Soul God is we enter this birth and death cycle that lasts for 5,000 years. This is actually a time cycle of 5,000 years called a kalpa. So the first half of this kalpa, the world will be heaven, and the last 2,500 years it would be hell. So the same world which was heaven in the beginning turns to hell eventually. And just 100 years before the destruction of this world or Kali Yuga, God Himself enters an old man's body and He names him Brahma, and He starts giving these teachings called Murli through an old man's body. And that Murli is absolutely available free of cost in all Rajyog meditation centers, all Brahmakumaris Rajyog meditation centers. And also you can get Murli in all languages online. You can search for it. So the essence of God's teachings or Murli is to consider ourselves to be the soul which shines like a tiny star in between the eyebrows, which is why Hindus have this habit of applying tilak in between the eyebrows. So we need to consider ourselves to be the soul that operates this body, and we are not this body. And after considering ourselves to be the soul, we need to remember God also as a point of light. He is also a soul, which is why He is called the Supreme Soul. So the more we remember God as a point of light after considering ourselves to be the souls, our souls will be filled with the power, the soul power. So thereby we will get slowly detached from everything that we were previously attached to. So as a result of attachment, we develop these 5 vices: lust, anger, greed, attachment and ego, which were the root causes of all sorts of sinful acts. So it is because of the sins we have committed in the past birth and in the past of this birth that we are encountering all sorts of difficulties, sorrows and pains. So that's the punishment for our past sins. So of course we have all sinned in the past. Nonetheless, God comes to rescue us from the punishments for our sinful acts. So the way to do that is to detach yourself from everything, including your body, at a mental level. So if you consider yourself only to be a soul and not this body, then you will not identify yourself to be a man or woman, because a soul can take a man's body or a woman's body. Birth after birth, it alternates. So a man is not going to be a man in all his rebirths. The same applies to women. So all the attachments, including the religions, are purely based on the body you took. If you have taken birth in a Muslim family, then you will be considered a Muslim. There is a pretty good chance that you might take rebirth in some other community, say like Hindu or Christian or Jain, then you will identify yourself to be the someone of that particular community. Now God asks you to get rid of all these identities, to get rid of the body consciousness and to be soul conscious and to remember God as a point of light. So we souls have sinned in the past, because of which we are facing the consequences. The same applies to every single member of our family. So they are still souls. Just because they are part of your family doesn't mean they will not be punished. They will definitely be punished, because their karmic account is entirely different from your karmic account. Just by detaching yourself at a mental level from even your family members, then no matter what happens around you, no matter what happens to them, that will not cause any disturbance in you. Of course, it's your duty to protect them, but not fight for them. There's a big difference between them. So if one of your family member dies in an accident, you did your best to save him. After that, it's not in your hand. So he has gone to some place based on his past karmic account to take rebirth. So there's nothing you can do to bring him back. So what's the point of worrying and crying after that? It is because you are so attached to his body that you feel sorry for losing him. So that's why God asks you to be soul conscious all the time and to remember God as a point of light, and also to establish all relationships only with the eternal God, because He is not going to bring you any pain or sorrow, because He is not going to cheat you, He is not going to be dead. So obviously the only thing you get by remembering Him is happiness. And we are nearing the destruction of the world. So obviously everyone will be punished for their past sins, and the world will become more and more deadlier as time goes by. So be prepared and expect all the unexpected deadly things to happen right in front of your eyes to your loved ones. And it is only by becoming detached now, by practicing detachment on now itself, that you will be able to face everything that's going to happen in the future without getting disturbed. So what happened to Buddha statues in Afghanistan is going to happen for all religious monuments across the world. So that will happen only if you get attached to that particular religion, that you will get hurt. So that's the power of Satan. That's the game of Satan. So to save us from Satan, God has come and he asked us to hold his hand. So that's how he saves us, by remembering God as a point of light as much as possible, by becoming soul conscious, that we are able to leave this body happily so that we can take birth in heaven. So this is how God saves us from the sorrow and pain of hell and take us back to the happiness filled heaven. If somebody has some strong political views, stay away from him. Whether it's right or left, it doesn't matter. Just stay away from him, or else even you will get that disease, so that's going to affect you in the near future. Not only that, you need to get rid of all these 5 vices: lust, anger, greed, attachment and ego, because it is only through these 5 vices that you get affected. So the root cause for these 5 vices to emerge is body consciousness. That's why you need to destroy body consciousness by becoming soul conscious. So screening our documentary on our PM is nothing in front of your family member getting killed right before your eyes, because that's going to happen in the future. If you can't even withstand either the ban or the screening of that documentary, then how are you going to face those things that's going to happen in the future? So as Rahul Gandhi said, you should destroy yourself. How do you do that? By becoming soul conscious. So what's the result of that? You will stay happy forever, no matter what happens around you. So thereby you become eligible to enter the world filled with happiness. So in heaven, there will be no division, there will be no people who wants to divide based on political or religious. Actually, there won't be any religion at all. So everyone will be under one kingdom. So there won't be ruling party, opposition party, there won't be democracy. It will be kingdom. Don't think kingdom is bad, because we read so in our history books, but it is totally opposite to that in heaven, because the subjects consider kings and queens to be their parents, mother and father. And even kings and queens, they consider their subjects to be their kids. So they will be so loving to each other. So that is the reason in all religious scriptures it is mentioned that cows and lions take water from the same pond at the same time. So that should say how loving everybody is towards each other in heaven. Not only that, they will be living in palaces made of golden bricks. So then think how rich they would be. They would be very beautiful, they will be very healthy, and they will be very loving towards each other without expecting anything in return. So as a result, it's going to be joyful and peaceful for the next 2500 years. And what is the eligibility to enter that heaven? To be peaceful and blissful now itself. So how is it possible to be peaceful when everything goes around is going to make you peaceless? By not listening to it, by detaching yourself from everything around you, including your body. So by considering yourself to be the soul and to consider others to be the soul while interacting with them, you will be able to not get carried away by anything wrong they do at the present moment, because you know they are doing it because of body consciousness. But all souls in the beginning, when they first take birth in earth, they will all be pure, they will all be loving to each other, they will all be filled with divine qualities. It is only by taking several rebirths and by becoming body conscious that one starts expressing devilish behaviors. Only if you are attached to anything, any family, any belief system, then you will get hurt. As a result, you will be provoked to exhibit your anger. So that might result in anything up to death. So it is not smart, right? Smart people should remain calm no matter what happens around them. So it is only by being in remembrance of God Shiva all the time, and also our objective, aim and objective is to become Lakshmi and Narayan, who were the first king and queen of heaven. So that's the highest status. Of course, it was heaven for everybody. Everybody would be filled with everything they need to stay happy throughout, but still the highest status of Lakshmi and Narayan, emperor and empress, is obviously the highest compared to others. So we can never do anything to bring peace in this world. Instead, you can give this teaching to everybody. Even then, not everybody is going to take it seriously. But if they are lucky enough and smart enough to understand the word of God, then they will be taking it very seriously, and they practice it to become soul conscious so that they can safeguard themselves during the world destruction, during several conflicts that is going to happen for several reasons that we can not even imagine now. See, Rahul Gandhi, he's been walking across India just to gain attention from the public so that he can stand a chance to become PM in the next election. But still, it is not guaranteed. The result can be either in his favor or not. But still, he is making so much effort. Not only that, obviously, in democracy, though everybody thinks democracy is a great thing, the main disadvantage of democracy is it is impossible for democracy to exist without making false claims or bad claims against the ruling party or towards each other. So whether or not they take it seriously, but the subjects take it seriously and they get offended, they involve in such conflicts, and that may even result in the death of hundreds to thousands. So always remember the essence of Bhagavad Gita. Whatever has happened was good. Whatever is happening is equally good. Whatever is going to happen in the future, that's going to be even better. So this is the teaching of God. Obviously, man's teachings. So man has created all religions. So obviously the teachings of religions, no matter how appealing it is in the beginning, you will eventually be deceived into doing something wrong. So it is only by holding on to God's hand and by holding on to God's teachings that you can safeguard yourselves. So no matter what happens around you, it will definitely result in something good later. Only if you are able to detach from whatever is happening around you. If you are attached to it, then you will be punished for the same. See how political parties are fighting against each other to claim the highest post that's going to last only for 5 years. So in several countries, after their reign, they are sent to prison. So that is Kali Yuga, that is hell. But in heaven, it's not going to be the case. So there, everybody born to a royal family is going to be king. Nobody is going to fight against you. Nobody is going to grab your kingdom away from you as it happens in hell. So it is only in hell kings rival each other's kingdoms and they fight with each other. But that was not the case in heaven. So it's going to be peaceful for the first 2500 years. Even after that, there's not going to be fight in the beginning, but maybe you will start committing sins in a more subtle way, only at a mental level, like having lust for your wife, not for others, because in heaven you don't lust even your own wife, so they don't know what lust is. So it is by having the thought of having a child, the wife gets consumed. There is absolutely not even a trace of lust between men and women in heaven. That's why we worship them by building temples to them in Hinduism. But what we do not know is, it is us in the beginning that were deities. And now after taking several rebirths, we have become slaves for these 5 vices, that we forget ourselves and start committing more and more sins. And God in the end gives these teachings, enlightens us and makes us into divine being again. So this happens 5000 years once. So in every kalpa, God comes in the end and gives this teaching, makes us soul conscious, thereby converting hell back into heaven. Om Shanti. Thanks for watching.